Okay, I hope everyone is having a good day and we're back for another Thoth video. And as you can see from the title of this, we're going to be looking at the court cards today. And it's so exciting because Crowley states that they are like representations of the elements themselves, right? So each elemental is divided into like sub-elements, kind of like subdivisions, right? And I love researching this topic. Mainly, as all of you know, I like to study in the Book of Thoth, and so I kind of like to chase rabbits with Crowley, and really, because he mentions the courts in like a couple of places in that book, or in that essay. So I don't know. I just like to look in there. I guess I like to go to source for it. So with that being said, I've got the court cards all laid out here, and they just look so beautiful. This is actually my rendition of a fully trimmed version, so we can just see the pictures. And so, now, like I said, okay, we all know from studying the tarot that the courts have elemental associations like earth, fire, so on and so forth. But then Crowley kind of took this one step further, like an actual manifestation, like type thing on each card, which is fascinating when we get into it. Okay, so all of these right here are the knights. Okay, these are all the knights: pentacles, swords, wands, and cups. Okay, and so we're gonna go from the knights all the way to the princesses, and I'll kind of go over a little bit about each card and then their elemental associations. And so what I want to say about the knights at first is they are like the most sublime, original, active part of the energy of their element. Okay, so their action is like all swiftness and violence, right? But they're transient. Okay, now that kind of means that it's not permanent. It just lasts for a short time. Okay, and like I guess what would be considered like what the swiftness of their manifestation in their suit. So the Knight of Air. No, I'm sorry. The Knight of Earth. Pentacles. Would be the mountain. He calls this the mountain. Well, if it's swift and violent, how does a mountain make sense? Okay, so I kind of think of a mountain as slow and steady, right? Well, in the Book of Thoth, it says that the mountain is a phenomenon, kind of like an earthquake or gravity itself. So to me, that kind of means swiftness of earthly giving. So if we thought of this in that way, then with all the wheat, okay, that's like he's just in a field, right? And he's not really in motion. He's kind of just sitting there looking at all this wheat, and like he's going this way with his vision, right? He's just looking at all the wheat, all the agriculture. And so that could mean harvest, fertility, and the transience of that, like the swiftness and violence of nature itself, the agriculture, how things bloom, are harvested, and then they die, and it's just a cycle, right? But not the harvest and fertility aspect of nature does not last forever. That's not permanent. It's cyclical. And so it's kind of like a lack of initiative. So like this person, he's just imitating nature, right? He doesn't have an original thought, right? He's just standing there and he's going to do whatever nature's doing. That's kind of why he's standing still. He's like, okay, well, if the breeze is going to blow me, it's going to blow me. Okay, the Knight of Air. Now, he very much is in motion. Okay? Now, he represents the fiery part. Okay? So think wind or a storm, right? So a tempest. Like the wind, it's like fierce and delicate at the same time. There may be some courage there. This, to me, because the swords represent the mental, right? Like the mentality or the mental capacity. So this could be like the intuitive thought, right? That drives you, but you don't really reflect on it. You just act, right? So that is like the swiftness of a thought, and you're just like him. You're just going to go with that thought. You're just going to act. No question, no nothing, no reason. You just go with you just go with whatever your thought is telling you at the moment. Interesting. Okay, the Knight of Wands. Now, if we I love the colors. Like, look at the colors in this. Just, you could pretty much tell their earthly associations with just those. But that's not what this video is. The Knight of Wands is the fire of fire. Makes sense, because there's a whole bunch of fire going on in this. And I kind of think of a fire of fire, that's like a lightning strike, right? We know the knights are swiftness and there's like a violence. But if it's fire on top of fire, then that's like the swiftness of a lightning strike. And that can mean he represents an impulsive act, right? So he's unpredictable, like actually unpredictable. And his action comes from a place of pride, right? Like if you see his stature, okay, he's got all these wands in his hand and his steed is going, and he very much is impulsive, right? But there's some pride there. He's upstanding, but he puts all of his eggs in one basket, so to speak. So that's kind of what that means to me. Moving on, because we've got more court cards to get to. The Knight of Cups. So he would be the fiery part of water, okay? So I think Crowley says that this is rain. The swiftness and violence of that. Well, I don't think of it in terms of like swift and violent or anything like that, like a sudden downpour. But when I think of this card, it's like that sound of rain when it comes out of nowhere, right? Like literally out of nowhere. Like all of a sudden you're sitting there and you're being peaceful and you know the rain's coming kind of, but then out of nowhere, sheets of it are coming down, right? That suddenness of the actual rain that comes. And I don't know. I guess to me, that means that he could be enthusiastic, right? Under stimulus. So sensitive to influence, but he doesn't like criticism. And because he's fire of water, and those elements are opposites, he's kind of like swift and violent for an otherwise passive person, which is hard to come by. Because if he's like sensitive and passive and he's kind of placid with his countenance, and then he's got fire on top of that, that's kind of like a contradictory thing. And so it's like finding the right balance between your swift action and your passiveness. And that's really hard to find in a person, let alone anything else. Okay, we're going to keep going. I think I'll have to move some of this stuff out of the way. I got my key here because we're wanting to unlock some mysteries of the Thoth, right? All right. Now, the next, of course, is the Queens. Oh, love the Queens. They're just so beautiful. Oh, okay. Now, they represent this like second stage, right? She's the water of these elements, the water part of these elements, and she's a complement to the Knight itself. So I like that she is a complement. They don't say that she's like under him, so to speak. I like that she's beside him in a way. I think that was a really good term for how they put it in the Book of Thoth. I thought that was pretty ingenious. So she's the water part of her element, right? So if we look right here at the Queen of Pentacles, right? So she's the Queen of Earth. She is the water part of Earth, the mother, right? She's just all fertility right here. And I've mentioned her in another video. She's just so ambitious, but in a practical way, right? So she's instinct and intuition, but in a down to business kind of a way. She's practical, okay? She's using her gift of intuition in okay, I know what to do in this moment. Let's do this. And then she does it. And it works. And so I kind of think of it that way. She's kind of hardworking. I kind of think of her as like domesticated, right? So she is very down to earth in that sense. Okay, the Queen of Swords, which is the Queen of Air. She is the watery part of air, which Crowley states that that's a vibration, right? Well, she looks all kinds of vibrational with all these clouds, right? And she's severed a head. I kind of think of John the Baptist with this. We're not going to get into that today, but And her crown is I think it said it was a baby. Anyway, there's just so much going on with this card. Now, clear, conscious perception of an idea. So she's like gracefulness, a keen observer. She's a beautiful balancer between action and spirit. Okay, so like we were talking about in the Knights, she's swiftness, but in spirit and action. And she knows the difference, and she's a great balancer of those two things. And she's perceptive in a way that is like subtle. So she's independence, right? This is independence. She just strives for, individualization. And like with this severed head, I feel like she'll get it in any means necessary. Okay. The Queen of Wands, fire, right? There's just so much fire energy in this card. It's not even funny because now we know that all the queens are the water, right? The water of their element. So this is the water of fire. Crowley says this is the rainbow. Ugh. Now if we think of rainbow, okay, like a fading, I think he said a fading, spiritualized reflection of an image, right? So you think, I don't know, a rainbow is like a prismatic light being reflected, okay? So she's going inward. She's the ecstasy one faces when you go inward. So she's seeing something within herself that is casting this kaleidoscope, these kaleidoscope colors, and she's drawn to it. But it's coming from a place of within. Like she's going inward to find her drive and her adaptability. And she can be kind and generous and capable of love, but it's going to be on her own terms. So like her, she's an individualist, right? She just really does strive for independence. I think all the queens are like that. But there's some pride there as well. I think with the fire element, there, of course, has to be, I guess, like the king, like the knights, water of fire. She's not pride in a swiftness, but maybe pride in a vanity, maybe some snobbery there, right? That's kind of how I think of her. And I think there's a line in the Book of Thoth that stood out. When she misses her bite, she breaks her jaw. Well, that means to me that she's all business. She's in it for, like, even if she breaks her jaw, she's going to take that bite. She's going to take that opportunity. And I love that about her. Like, sometimes it works out and sometimes you break your jaw. So, but you have to take the opportunities when they come, right? Okay. Oh, I love this one. Oh, the Queen of Cups. She's the water of water. Now, this is a pool, right? So, like, this is a prismatic reflection. This is a stagnant reflection. Okay, so it's not a reflection like a rainbow, but like still water. Okay, so she's reflecting you. So think about when you look into a pool. Okay, you don't see the pool for what it is. You see your reflection. So she's mirroring you, nothing else. So it kind of you'd think that would make it hard for you to get to know her, because she's just going to go on what she knows, right? And and whatever she's reflecting is not her true self. And there could be some shadow aspects of her, like she's wearing a constant mask, right? So I kind of think of this in terms of like dreaminess, right? Think of Narcissus. He walks by this pool and he sees his reflection and he falls in love with it and he has to kill himself because there's no getting back that beauty, right? So she could be some kind of illusion, right? Or the tranquility that comes with being under the influence of an illusion. And she's able to receive and transmit without herself being affected. And that, like I said, can come with some shadow aspects of it. Okay, we're going to keep going because this is so fun already. Now, we're at the princes. These princes just look so debonair, don't they? Now, the princes are the combined energies of the knight and the queen. So he's the active issue of the union and the heir of each of his suit, or the heir of each element. So, the Prince of Disc. He's the airy part of Earth. Crowley states that this is plain, right? So this is not land that you're going to cultivate, okay? But like just grassy plain, right? Think animal grazing land. I kind of think of it that way, like the laziness of that. You know, you're not really doing any work. It's just you're going to let it do its own thing, and the grass just keeps growing and getting eaten, and then growing and getting eating. So there's a cycle there, but I think in like a quiet, meditative, like I said, kind of lazy way. But great energy when it comes to like practical matters. Like that's what he is. And I think that he searches out new ways and new uses of common things, right? So he thinks outside of the box maybe, and I think it's like slow and steady wins the race for him. He may lack emotion, but that's only because he's the person that has to be touching and handling the things. Like believing is seeing type of a person. Like that type of mindset. He believes in nothing if it's abstract. So if he can't touch it, he don't believe in it. Okay, the Prince of Air. I love that this is kind of like geometrical, okay, because to me, this is like, they say that Crowley states this clouds, right? No direction. They're just kind of floating there like this, and they're going to go wherever the wind takes them. And he's the airy part of air, right? So that is clouds. But I think that this is a demonstration of power. It's not power truly manifested. Because so he's like full of ideas, right? But they're tumbling all over each other, as we can see down here. They're just tumbling about. And I think of this as that person who is constantly inventing something. And even though none of his inventions have come to fruition, that doesn't stop him. There's just 1,000 copies of the patents he's put in, and they're stuck in a file somewhere, right? That's what this is. Those thoughts and those designs are just jumbled up like this, right? And you just have to keep inventing because that's just who you are, right? So that's kind of how I think of him. Okay, the Prince of Wand. He's the airy part of fire. Volatile, right? Steady force of energy. So the sun, that's what this is. The steady force of energy. If he's the sun, okay, and he's got some strength, right? He's impulsive, right, but not always. I guess he is slow to make up his mind, but when he does, he can be almost cruel in the way he executes it, right? So if he's right on a subject, he's just going to be like, I was right. And like his notions, right? He, like in his morals, right? He fights for that, what he believes in. And he often wins, but like in a long-term way. And I think he loves to work, but he's not really concentrating on the end result. He's concentrating on the work that he's doing, and that's the most important thing for him. He just wants to work. So it's like effort for effort's sake type of a thing. And the Prince of Cups. He's the airy part of water. The steady force of putrefaction, which is the decomposition of organic matter, if you didn't know. And I always thought of steam when I thought of this card. I kind of mentioned him in another video as well. Like his wings are like jet trails because he's just moving so fast. There's a swiftness there with air, but he's swiftness in water. And I think that he appears calm and collected, but it's a mask, right? Because Crowley states he's subtle and he's secret violence and he's full of craftiness. I think that most people would never know him because he's unpredictable. He kind of inspires unreasonable fear, so the Book of Thoth says, and he's always about his own aims. So he has no responsibility to others at all. This is selfishness in maybe a practical sense. Okay, and last but not least is the princesses. All these are beautiful too. I love the court cards in the Thoth deck. Okay. Now, having no zodiacal attribution, they tend to represent human beings in a sense, right? They're not representing anything like earthly manifested, or air manifested. Nothing really manifested. They're just kind of like the spirit, and they're counterbalancing all the other court cards, in my opinion. And so the end and the beginning of all the others. So the earth part of air. So she's the priestess of Demeter, the secret of the future. She is the priestess of Demeter. Okay? Womanhood and ultimate projection. Her realm influences all her stages, making her the person that she is today. Okay? Now, priestess of air, or priestess. Princess of swords, which is the air. So she's the earthly part of air. She's the influence between heaven and earth. She represents the anger of the gods, okay? And I don't know if you can see, but right up here in her helmet is Medusa's head. I love that because, we could just go on to that symbolism, but we're not. Now her posture is in such almost a fighting stance, as to say to the gods and the earth at once that while anger in some situations is necessary, she fights for the purity of both. She's going to stand, liminally speaking, in between both. And I think she's kind of like revenge in that kind of a way, like practical wisdom, almost cleverness, because she's fighting for both the realms, okay? And this altar has been misused, and she's like, wait a minute, I'm not really the conduit, but I'm fighting for the conduit. I'm fighting for you, and I'm fighting for you, and we need to keep this a sacred place and not misuse it. So, she's like being the throne of spirit of her suit. She's capable of being neutral in a way that will benefit both parties involved, I guess. And there may be some suppression there, right? Like, again, there's shadows in all of these, but I feel like maybe there's some suppression, could be because she's having to battle both, and then maybe there needs to be some impartiality there, but she's more of a fight first, ask questions later type of a broad. Okay, Princess of Wands. She's the earthy part of fire. She's like the fuel, okay? She's the fuel on the fire. So she's like the dancing priestess. I love when he said that. I was like, yes. And she's individualized too, but more in a daring, right? So her beauty comes from like all of her energy. She's got so much energy that's where her like beauty comes from. In this swiftness of this Hebrew letter shape right here. And I think that in both anger and love, she's like sudden and violent, right? And I think that she's quick to love, she's quick to anger, right? There's a lot of passion there, a lot of drive, a lot of ambition, and a lot of enthusiasm. And hearing that just sounds exhausting. Moving on. The Princess of Cups, okay? The earthly part of water. And I think that kind of means giving life, right? So if water gives life, it's in a graciousness and a sweetness and almost in a gentleness. So she could be seen as selfish, but it's only because she's silent about going about her business, right? Her work is about it's like all consuming. When she's working, she's only thinking about the work, right? So she's concentrating. This is a concentrate card. And there could be some head in the clouds type of a thing here, and she's kind of dependent on others, but she gives back tenfold, right? So she needs the help of others, but in a way she's glad for the help, and then she'll be reciprocating that in a way that will benefit all parties involved. So I like that about her, that she seems to be this daydreamer almost, but she just enjoys the work that she does in her suit, and she is like, okay, well, one of y'all want to help me out? And then if they do, she's quick to receive that. I like that. Okay, that was all of them. And we kind of went kind of quick, didn't we? But I just wanted y'all to see the elements and how we've kind of gone through like earth, fire, and how Crowley had like a manifestation like rainbow or clouds, and how we can kind of tie those in to what we know about the court cards in general. And I thought that was fascinating. So, hope y'all can come back and join me for another Thoth video. Okay? I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll be back soon with some more outside of the box thinking. Okay? Much love.